Man. Errol Spence destroyed Chris Algieri. Oh my God, that was a beatdown from round 1 to round 5, man. Chris Algieri got beat down bad, man. I picked Errol to win, but I thought Chris was gonna ride it out longer. I thought Chris wasn't gonna be standing right in front of him. I thought Chris, you know what? I thought it would be a little bit more competitive than that. I didn't think Errol was going to stop him, and especially in that fashion. I thought Chris was going to be moving and circling around the ring. We didn't get much of that in this fight. Okay, Errol Spence took this guy out. All right, body shots, uppercuts. Even his post-fight interview, he said, Chris Algieri kept ducking down, and he was working on landing that left hook. Even the uppercuts, man, it's just. He gave Chris Algieri so many different looks, right? The kid is so strong. Just walked him down. Went to the body all night long. Maybe that had part of the reason why Chris Algieri couldn't move too well, because he's taking so many shots to the body, man. Nothing but power shots. This guy was throwing nothing but power shots, man. Like, Errol Spence is very strong. I mean, the Pacquiao fight, Pacquiao knocked him down with like 5 or 6 times. Chris is tough. He kept getting up. I'm sure he probably would have even got up again if the ref didn't stop it. But, I don't think Pacquiao was trying to really annihilate that guy. I mean, Errol Spence went in there. He wasn't playing no games. He didn't want to touch gloves. He didn't want to give this guy no space. Like, he went in there to knock this guy out. No playing around. No sportsmanship. Just straight, I'm annihilating you. That's what he went in there and did. And Chris Algieri didn't stand a chance. He had no moments in the fight where, the closest round was probably the first round, And I still gave Errol that round. But after the first round, it was just no respect there. Like, Chris Algieri looked like every other Errol Spence opponent at that point, And I thought this was a huge step up. Even there was people, even in my video, my prediction video, that was picking Algieri to win the fight. So that goes to show that people thought this was a good fight. And Errol annihilated that guy. He got him out of here. Chris Algieri, he's still a good fight for anyone at 147, but not. Errol Spence just made him look like nothing. Now, what's next for him? Listen, nobody at 147 is going to fight Errol Spence Jr. unless they absolutely have to. Unless they're, they want to give their title away, want to get stripped, or no one is going to volunteer to fight that guy. Thurman, Brook is his mandatory, so hopefully Brook takes the fight and not vacate his title. I don't think Brook. Listen, Chris Algieri is not Kell Brook. I see people online already going crazy with it, saying that Kell Brook is going to vacate his title. He's not going to fight this guy. I'm sure Kell Brook don't want to fight Errol Spence, but let's not act like Kell Brook is Chris Algieri. He's not. All right, Kell Brook is one of the top welterweights in the game. Some people think he is the best welterweight in the game right now, as far as who's still active. And listen, that fight can go either way because Kell Brook. See, the thing about Chris Algieri, going into the fight, a lot of people thought Chris Algieri's movement was going to be an issue for Errol Spence, all right? A guy that had good speed, good legs. He's going to use his footwork against him. And Errol Spence was going to have hard time finding Chris Algieri. Obviously, he didn't. But, the thing with Kell Brook is really good on the outside. And he has a lot of punching power. All right, he's not like Chris Algieri. Chris Algieri was throwing shots, and Errol Spence was just not respecting anything Chris threw at him. He didn't respect anything. Kell Brook has a better jab, has a stronger right hand. He has a much more. He's overall a much better boxer than Chris Algieri. It's no way you can even compare those two. All right, and Chris Algieri is the best fighter that Errol fought. All right. But Errol is dangerous for anyone at 147. And I've been saying that for a couple of years now. I mean, I thought he was going to be a issue for Keith Thurman if they were to fight. Even when I was just talking about him being a prospect and everything, I thought he was going to be a tough fight for Keith Thurman. Okay, but now it's pretty much confirmed that he's a tough fighter for anyone at 147. Anyone at 147. The kid is strong. He keeps coming. He's a pressure fighter. And he has good defense. And he's tough for anyone at 147. There's only a few that I see being a real challenge for him. I already think he could beat Danny Garcia. I already think he could beat Danny. I think he could beat Sean Porter. And I think he can beat a lot of the other top 10 guys. Kell Brook, I'm not too sure about that. I'm not too sure about Kell Brook. Not too sure if Manny Pacquiao or well, Floyd don't fight anymore, or Tim Bradley, but I think Errol Spence, he might even beat Tim Bradley. I don't know, man. That kid is good. That kid is a problem. Someone, it's funny because someone asked me. I remember, I don't know if it was on Twitter or in person, but somebody asked me a while ago who I think would win if Terrence Crawford moved up to 147 and fought Errol Spence. And I said right away, Errol Spence. Errol Spence. I think he could beat Terrence Crawford. And Terrence Crawford is very, very talented. I love Terrence Crawford, but I wouldn't want him in the ring there with Errol Spence. Like, nah. Errol Spence is too big, too powerful. And, I don't think Terrence Crawford would do well against Errol Spence. Very few fighters that I think could beat Errol Spence. I think Thurman has a shot. I think Bradley would have a good shot, and I think Kell Brook would have a good shot. Definitely Kell Brook. In fact, I think Kell Brook probably has the best chance stylistically. So I hope that fight happens. I would hate for this fight not to happen. But if Errol is going to fight Kell Brook, he's going to UK. He got to be on his game. I mean, there's no reason why he wouldn't be on his game because he's always on top of his game. Even when he's fighting, lower quality opponents, he's been on top of his game. He's on the come up. So I would only expect him fighting one of the best fighters at welterweight for him to be on his A game. You go in the UK, you got to fight like as if you want to get the knockout because you never know if it's a close fight and you're in the UK. And it could be if it goes to decision, it could very well be a close fight. You might not get that decision. Okay, not out there because that's Kell Brook's territory. But let's not act like Errol Spence could just walk through Kell Brook and Kell Brook is going to do everything in his power. Now, what I'm waiting for is I'm sure Kell Brook, like many other people, are waiting to see what happens with Amir Khan and Canelo Alvarez. Because win or lose, Kell Brook is still going to be trying to get that fight with Amir Khan. If Amir Khan wins the fight, he's going to want to fight with him, just like he wants now. Amir Khan at that point is definitely probably not going to fight Kell Brook because, Amir Khan's coming off. He's going to have the biggest head in the world if he beats Canelo Alvarez. But if he loses to Canelo, I still expect Kell Brook to try to get a fight with him. And I think if Amir Khan loses, especially if he gets knocked out, he's going to be looking to fight like a Kell Brook because that's the only guy where that fight can still be big out there and people are still going to want to see that fight. So I'm expecting Kell Brook. And I don't know if, I know he's the mandatory. I don't know if he is going to get another fight in there, Kell Brook. I don't know if he's going to get another fight, but Kell Brooks looked good against the three guys that he fought, after beating Sean Porter, like he's supposed to. He did what he had to do in those fights, and he's still a very good fighter. And I think he's improved dramatically since like that first fight he had with Carson Jones. He's gotten much better. But I don't know, man. Listen, if they made that fight a pay-per-view, I would pay for it. That's a better fight. Kell Brook against Errol Spence is a better fight than Thurman and Porter, in my opinion. I'm going to go as far as saying that because at least I know there's going to be a lot of wrestling with Shawn Porter and Keith Thurman. You know, I know Shawn Porter is not, even though that's a huge fight, Shawn Porter's style can make it an unenjoyable fight. Whereas you got two really good boxers with power going at each other, you know, and I think it's going to be a really good fight. I don't think it's going to be a lot of holding unless someone's in trouble. Both of them, two really skilled, high-skilled boxers. You know, I don't think Shawn Porter's like that skilled. I think he's more of you know, roughhousing, and him being aggressive is what makes him good. But this fight, Kell Brook against Errol Spence, two really good boxers, good defensive boxers with a lot of punching power. Two big welterweights at that, you know, because Kell Brook is a pretty strong welterweight. That's why he was able to control Shawn Porter. And, you know, Errol Spence, we already know he's a very strong fighter, goes to the body well. And, you know, Kell Brook is going to give him something to worry about. That's why I want to see that fight, because Errol Spence, he hasn't really had nothing to worry about with these guys that he's been facing. You know, and even though Chris Algieri was a stepping stone, it was a step up, he was still, he's not a powerful puncher, you know, and he just didn't, you know, Errol Spence just never respected him. He just walked through him and walked him down and beat him down, you know, and Chris couldn't even really use his footwork to get away from it. This guy was chasing him. He wanted to get this guy out of there, you know, and he did it. He did just that. But I think Errol beats Danny Garcia already. I think he beats Danny Garcia. You know, I think he beats him and some of the other top fighters at 147 already. All right? But hopefully Kell Brook will fight him. You know, hopefully Kell Brook. But I don't think Kell Brook is going to want to fight him. But if he has to, I think he'll fight him before giving up that title. All right? So anyway, and, you know, Keith Thurman, Shawn Porter, whoever wins that fight, if Keith Thurman is to win that fight, I highly doubt if Keith Thurman, like, say if Errol don't fight Kell Brook, I doubt if Keith Thurman fights this guy next. Keith Thurman is going to be like, all right, if he fights somebody else, one more person good, I'll fight him. Shawn Porter, if he wins, if he beats Keith Thurman, those guys might even end up rematching. I can't even speak on that. It's not really many options out there for Errol. Because he's not going to fight Pacquiao or Bradley. All right, he's not going to fight no top rank guys. He's not going to fight Keith Thurman or Kell Brook. Those guys, I mean, not Keith Thurman. Keith Thurman and Shawn Porter. I don't expect those guys to get in the ring with him, like, right this year. You know, I don't see that happening until sometime next year, maybe. All right. And Danny Garcia is not going to do it. Danny's not doing it. Danny's not going to fight a guy like that right now. You know, so Errol really doesn't have, he better hope he gets a shot at Kell Brook, because if not, he's probably going to have to fight like a Guerrero or, you know, another top 147 that's more like a gatekeeper. You know, a step up, but more, not the exact fight he wants, like not the championship fight. That's if Kell Brook doesn't fight him. All right, but anyway, I'm just throwing all the options out there. I'm trying to think if I forgot anyone at 147 that I could see Kell Brook fighting right now. You know, I think if he just doesn't get the fight with Brook, he's probably going to fight Guerrero. You know, I see that fight very possible. It seems like everybody wants to fight Guerrero because Guerrero is a good name, big money fight, and a good, worthy opponent. A tough one that is beatable, but he's going to give you, you know, some good rounds or whatever. But outside of that, you know, I've seen like guys, like if Errol Spence were to fight Devin Alexander or, you know, Louis Collazo, we know the outcome of those fights. Like, it's just going to be another name collected. You know, you never even know. You might even get a fight with Diego Chavez because everybody likes fighting him. You know. But anyway, that's it. This video, I'm making it way longer than I wanted to do. But anyway, you guys subscribe. Make sure to subscribe and look at the other reviews from the other fights on this card that I already put up. Okay? Peace.